Last night, you finished dinner. You packed the leftovers into a plastic container, slid them into the refrigerator, and today, you tossed them into the microwave without giving it a second thought. It took less than 2 minutes. You heard the familiar beep, grabbed your fork, and started eating. It felt like the healthy choice. No fast food, no expensive takeout, no wasted food, just leftovers. But here's a question. What if some foods don't become dangerous when you cook them, but because of what happens after they're cooked? What if the biggest mistake isn't reheating? It's how you're reheating, when you're reheating, or how long that food sat before you ever pressed the microwave button. Most Americans have at least one container of leftovers in their refrigerator right now. Rice, chicken, potatoes, pasta, vegetables, maybe even last night's bacon from breakfast for dinner. And while leftovers can absolutely be part of a healthy lifestyle, food scientists have spent decades discovering something most people never hear about. Certain foods can undergo chemical or biological changes if they're stored or reheated improperly. Some lose valuable nutrients. Some can grow dangerous bacteria. Others may produce unwanted compounds when exposed to repeated high heat. And here's what makes this even more surprising. The warning signs usually aren't obvious. The food may still smell normal, look perfectly fine, taste exactly the same. Yet underneath the surface, tiny changes may already be happening. Today, we're breaking down 5 of the most common foods in American kitchens that deserve extra attention before you reheat them again. Not because we're trying to scare you, but because knowing the science could help you avoid mistakes that millions of families make every single week, without realizing what repeated heating can do to it over time. Let's start with the one almost everyone has in their kitchen.
Rice.
Rice seems harmless. It's one of the most widely eaten foods on Earth. Whether it's white rice, brown rice, jasmine, basmati, Spanish rice, or fried rice from your favorite takeout restaurant, most people assume that once rice is cooked, it's completely safe until it spoils. But food microbiologists know that's not always true. The real story actually begins before the rice is ever cooked. Raw rice naturally lives close to the soil where it's grown. Because of that, it can contain microscopic bacterial spores from a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Now don't let the scientific name intimidate you. Here's the important part. Unlike most bacteria, these spores are incredibly tough. Boiling water doesn't necessarily destroy them. Cooking rice until it's fluffy doesn't always eliminate them. Even steaming temperatures that kill ordinary bacteria may leave these spores behind. At first, that doesn't sound very alarming. Because spores are essentially asleep, they're inactive, harmless, just waiting. But once the rice finishes cooking, the clock starts ticking. Imagine making a big pot of rice for dinner. Everyone eats. The leftovers stay on the kitchen counter while the family watches TV. 1 hour passes, then another. Maybe someone forgets to refrigerate it before going to bed. The rice still looks perfectly fine. No mold, no strange smell, no discoloration. Nothing appears wrong. But inside, those dormant spores may begin waking up as the rice cools into what's known as the temperature danger zone, roughly between 40°F and 140°F. Conditions become much more favorable for bacterial growth. Instead of sleeping, the bacteria begin multiplying. Some strains of Bacillus cereus can also produce toxins. And this is where many people misunderstand the risk. They assume the microwave fixes everything. It doesn't. Reheating can kill many active bacteria if the food reaches a high enough temperature, but certain toxins produced before reheating are much more heat-resistant. That means even piping hot rice may not always be safe if it's spent too long sitting at room temperature first. Notice what the problem actually is. It's not reheated rice. It's poor food handling before reheating. This is why food safety agencies consistently recommend refrigerating cooked rice promptly, ideally within about 2 hours or sooner if the room is especially warm. Using shallow containers helps the rice cool faster. That limits the amount of time bacteria have to multiply. Then, when you're ready to eat it, reheat it thoroughly until it's steaming hot all the way through. And if possible, only reheat the portion you plan to eat, instead of warming the same batch over and over. Every cycle of cooling, storing, reheating, and cooling again creates another opportunity for bacteria to grow if the food isn't handled properly. Professional restaurant kitchens are trained to manage this carefully. Home kitchens? Not always. That's why rice continues to be one of the foods most commonly associated with preventable, foodborne illness around the world. Not because rice is inherently dangerous, but because many people underestimate how important storage is after cooking. So the next time you make extra rice, remember this simple rule. The microwave isn't your first line of defense. Your refrigerator is. If you thought rice was surprising, wait until you hear about the next food.
Processed meats.
Now let's move on to a food that's probably in your refrigerator right now. Bacon, ham, hot dogs, pepperoni, breakfast sausage, turkey slices, deli meat. These foods are incredibly convenient. They're quick, they're delicious, and for many Americans, they're part of everyday life. A bacon breakfast, a ham sandwich for lunch, hot dogs at a baseball game, pepperoni pizza on Friday night. Nothing unusual. But scientists have been studying processed meats for decades, and what they've discovered is far more complicated than most people realize. Here's where many viral videos get it wrong. They'll tell you that reheating bacon creates cancer. That's not exactly true. The real science is much more interesting. Most processed meats contain preservatives called nitrates or nitrites. Manufacturers use them for good reasons. They help prevent dangerous bacteria. They preserve color. They extend shelf life. Without them, many processed meats wouldn't stay fresh nearly as long. So nitrates themselves aren't automatically the enemy. The concern begins when these preservatives are exposed to very high temperatures. Imagine frying bacon. The fat starts popping. Smoke fills the kitchen. The edges become darker, then darker, until parts of the bacon are almost black. That black, burnt surface isn't just overcooked. It's chemistry. At extremely high temperatures, nitrites can react with naturally occurring proteins in meat and contribute to the formation of compounds called nitrosamines. Scientists have studied nitrosamines for years because several types have been shown to cause cancer in laboratory animals. Researchers continue investigating how much they contribute to cancer risk in humans. Now here's the important distinction. Microwaving yesterday's bacon for 30 seconds isn't the same as repeatedly frying it until it's charred. The greater concern is repeated exposure to excessive heat, especially burning or blackening processed meats. And there's another layer to this story. When meat reaches extremely high cooking temperatures, especially during grilling, pan frying, or open flame cooking, it can also produce compounds known as heterocyclic amines, or HCAs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, called PAHs. Those names sound complicated, but here's what they mean. These are chemicals that form when proteins, fats, and juices react under intense heat, or when fat drips onto an open flame and the resulting smoke coats the meat. Scientists have linked high exposure to these compounds with increased cancer risk in animal studies, and they're an active area of research in human nutrition. Does this mean you should never eat bacon again? No. Nutrition isn't all or nothing. It's about patterns. In fact, organizations like the World Health Organization have emphasized that regular consumption of processed meat, rather than an occasional serving, is associated with a higher risk of colorectal cancer. That doesn't mean every slice is dangerous. It means the risk increases over years of frequent consumption. Think about smoking. One cigarette isn't the same as smoking every day for 30 years. The same principle applies here. Your long-term habits matter far more than one meal. So if you enjoy bacon once in a while, cook it until it's done, but avoid burning it. If you're reheating leftovers, warm them gently rather than cooking them a second time until they're crispy again. Small changes like these can reduce unnecessary exposure to heat-related compounds. And here's something most people never think about. Every time you reheat processed meat in a skillet over high heat, you're essentially giving those proteins another round of intense cooking. One reheating isn't likely to make a meaningful difference, but repeatedly cooking, cooling, and frying the same meat over and over isn't ideal from either a food safety or quality standpoint.
Potatoes.
A baked potato, still wrapped tightly in aluminum foil, sitting on the kitchen counter overnight. It doesn't smell bad, it doesn't look spoiled, nothing seems unusual. So what's the problem? The answer has nothing to do with the potato itself. It's about the environment you've accidentally created. When a baked potato stays wrapped in foil, the foil traps heat and limits oxygen. As the potato slowly cools, it can create conditions that may allow Clostridium botulinum bacteria to grow if the spores are present and the potato is left at unsafe temperatures for too long. Now, before anyone panics, let's put this into perspective. Cases are rare, very rare, but when they do happen, they're extremely serious because this bacterium can produce botulinum toxin, one of the most potent toxins known. This isn't the kind of food poisoning that usually causes a mild stomachache for a day. Botulism is a medical emergency. It can affect the nervous system, leading to blurred vision, difficulty speaking, muscle weakness, trouble swallowing, and even paralysis. Again, this is uncommon, but it's serious enough that food safety experts repeatedly warn against leaving foil-wrapped baked potatoes at room temperature for extended periods. And here's the mistake many people make. They think, "I'll just microwave it tomorrow. That'll kill anything dangerous." Unfortunately, if a toxin has already formed, reheating may not reliably make the food safe. Once again, the microwave isn't the problem. The problem happened hours earlier. So what's the safest approach? It's simple. After eating, don't leave baked potatoes sitting out for hours. If they're wrapped in foil, remove the foil so they cool more quickly. Place them in a clean container or on a plate. Refrigerate them within about 2 hours. Then, when you're ready to eat them, reheat until they're hot all the way through. One small habit, just a few extra minutes, but it dramatically reduces the risk. It's another reminder that food safety isn't just about cooking. It's about cooling and storing food correctly.
Leafy green.
Spinach, kale, Swiss chard, beets, celery. These foods are often called superfoods. They're loaded with vitamins, minerals, fiber, and powerful antioxidants. So why have they become the target of so many viral warnings? The answer starts with something called nitrates. Many vegetables naturally contain nitrates. That's completely normal. In fact, vegetables are the largest source of dietary nitrates for most people. And despite what you may have heard online, this is generally considered a good thing. Inside your body, nitrates from vegetables can actually be converted into nitric oxide, a molecule that helps blood vessels relax, supports healthy circulation, and may even improve exercise performance. So nitrates in vegetables are not automatically harmful. Here's where the confusion begins. Under certain conditions, nitrates can be converted into compounds called nitrites, and under specific chemical environments, nitrites may contribute to the formation of nitrosamines, some of which have been linked to cancer in laboratory studies. This is where social media often oversimplifies the science. People hear the words nitrates and nitrosamines, and suddenly every reheated vegetable becomes dangerous. But that's not what research shows. Current evidence does not support the idea that reheating spinach once in the microwave suddenly turns it into a cancer-causing food. In fact, most nutrition experts continue encouraging people to eat more leafy greens because their overall health benefits far outweigh these theoretical concerns. So why do some doctors still recommend being careful? Because vegetables can lose nutrients each time they're repeatedly heated. Vitamin C, certain B vitamins, and other heat-sensitive nutrients gradually break down. That doesn't make the vegetables dangerous, it just makes them less nutritious. Imagine reheating the same container of spinach, again on Monday, again on Tuesday, again on Wednesday. Each reheating cycle reduces freshness. Texture changes, flavor changes, some nutrients decline. The better approach? Cook only what you need. Or reheat a single portion instead of the entire container every day. This preserves both quality and nutrition. It's a small habit, but over months and years, those habits add up.
Reused cooking oil.
Now we've reached the final item on today's list. And honestly, this one might be the most overlooked of them all. Not because people don't know about it, but because so many of us have done it. You fry chicken, or French fries, maybe some onion rings. When you're done, there's still plenty of oil left in the pan. So instead of throwing it away, you let it cool. Pour it into a container, and promise yourself you'll use it again next weekend. It seems practical. It saves money. And if the oil still looks clean, why not? Here's where food chemistry gets interesting. Cooking oil isn't as stable as it appears. Every time it's heated, tiny chemical changes begin to happen. The hotter the temperature and the longer the oil stays hot, the faster those changes occur. Imagine zooming in to the molecular level. Fresh cooking oil is made up mostly of healthy fat molecules arranged in stable structures, but expose those molecules to temperatures of 350, 375, or even 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and they begin to break apart. Oxygen from the air reacts with the oil. This process is called oxidation. As oxidation continues, the oil slowly forms new compounds that weren't there when the bottle was first opened. Some of these compounds are called aldehydes. Others are known as polar compounds and oxidized lipids. Researchers have been studying these substances because laboratory and animal studies suggest some may contribute to inflammation, oxidative stress, and cellular damage when consumed in large amounts over time. Now here's something many people don't realize. Each time you reuse that same oil, the process speeds up. Heat it once, some degradation occurs. Heat it again, more damage. A third time, even more unstable compounds begin to accumulate. Eventually, the oil reaches a point where it simply isn't the same product you started with. Professional restaurants know this. Many restaurants regularly test their frying oil and replace it once degradation reaches certain limits. Because old oil doesn't just affect health, it affects taste. Food absorbs more degraded oil. French fries become greasy instead of crispy. Chicken tastes stale instead of fresh. The quality drops long before most people notice. So how do you know your oil has reached its limit? There are a few warning signs. If the oil has become unusually dark, if it starts smoking long before reaching cooking temperature, if it smells rancid, or if it becomes thick, sticky, or foamy, those are signs it's time to throw it away. Fresh oil isn't just better for flavor. It's also a smarter choice for your long-term health. If there's one message I hope you remember after watching this video, it's this. Reheating food isn't the enemy. Improper food handling is. The microwave didn't create the problem. Leaving rice on the counter overnight did. The oven didn't create the problem. Repeatedly burning processed meat did. The baked potato wasn't dangerous because it was reheated. It became risky because it sat wrapped in foil at room temperature for far too long. And reused cooking oil didn't become harmful overnight. It changed slowly, one heating cycle at a time. When you understand the science, you stop fearing leftovers. Instead, you learn how to handle them safely. And that's empowering. Because protecting your health doesn't require expensive supplements, a special diet, or throwing away every leftover meal. It starts with a few simple habits. Cool food promptly. Store it correctly. Reheat it thoroughly. Avoid repeated overheating. And when cooking oil has clearly broken down, replace it. Small decisions, made consistently. That's how healthier kitchens are built. Before you head to the kitchen, take a quick look inside your refrigerator. Is there leftover rice? A container of mashed potatoes? Some bacon from yesterday's breakfast? Or maybe a bottle of cooking oil you've been reusing for months? Now you know exactly what to check. Not because you should be afraid of those foods, but because a few smart habits can make a real difference. It helps more people discover science-based health information instead of misleading myths. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we break down the latest nutrition, food safety, and health research into practical advice you can actually use. Which food on today's list surprised you the most? What's one kitchen habit you're going to change after watching this video? Leave your answer in the comments below. Thanks for watching.